The village of Hollow Creek was quiet, too quiet. It was the kind of quiet that felt heavy, burdened by unseen eyes and unspoken fears. At the edge of the village, nestled between whispering willows and gnarled oaks, stood an old cottage. It was a place of whispers, of hushed tones and fearful glances. The villagers spoke of a curse, a darkness that resided within its walls, reflected in a single antique mirror. The mirror, they said, was a window to one's doom. It showed not vanity, but terror. Not beauty, but the beast that lurked within. Generations had passed, each inheriting the tale of the mirror, its legend woven into the fabric of their lives. Fear was a legacy in Hollow Creek, passed down like heirlooms, and no one dared to break the cycle. Emily, a young woman with eyes that shone brighter than the moon, inherited the cottage. She arrived from the city, a place where shadows held no power and mirrors reflected only ambition. The villagers warned her, their voices raspy with years of hushed fear. They spoke of the mirror, its power, its hold. Emily listened, a polite smile on her lips, but their words were lost in the wind of her own certainty. She saw charm in the cottage's crooked smile, beauty in its weathered bones. The mirror to her was an antique treasure, a relic of a forgotten time. The villagers' warnings were dismissed as folklore, quaint but ultimately meaningless. Emily, with the confidence of youth and the ignorance of an outsider, stepped across the threshold and into the heart of the legend. Days turned into weeks, and the cottage came alive. Emily filled it with laughter, with the scent of fresh paint and the warmth of her spirit. The shadows seemed to recede, the whispers fading into the chirping of crickets and the rustling leaves. But the mirror remained. It hung in the hallway, a silent sentinel in the symphony of Emily's new life. Its presence was unavoidable. Each time she passed, she felt a chill, a prickling on the back of her neck. Her reflection stared back, unchanged. Yet there was a moment, a flicker, where it felt as if something else looked out from its depths. The villagers' warnings echoed in her mind, a persistent drumbeat against the rhythm of her newfound peace. One night, as the wind howled outside and the cottage groaned under the weight of the storm, Emily found herself drawn to the mirror. The fear, she realized, was a seed planted by the villagers and now taking root in her own heart. She would face it, confront the reflection and banish the shadows that clung to her. With a deep breath, she lit a candle, its flame a defiant flicker against the encroaching darkness. The mirror shimmered in the candlelight, its surface like a pool of liquid moonlight. Emily stepped closer, her heart a drum against her ribs. She looked into the mirror, her gaze steady, determined to break the curse of fear. Section 5. The Reflection. Her reflection, however, did not meet her gaze. The woman in the mirror stood still. Her eyes were vacant, empty sockets in a mask of her own face. Emily's breath caught in her throat. A cold dread spread through her icy fingers, gripping her heart. The reflection in the mirror began to move. It reached out, its hand a claw, a mockery of her own. The figure in the mirror stepped out, emerging from the glass as if it were water. It was her, yet not her. Her form, her face, but twisted, contorted into a grotesque parody. Its eyes, black as pitch, burned with a malevolent hunger. Section 6. Trapped. Emily was paralyzed. Fear, raw and consuming, rooted her to the spot. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. The figure, her doppelganger, glided towards her, its movements fluid, unnatural. Its touch was a frigid blast, stealing the warmth from her body, replacing it with an icy terror that froze her from the inside out. Emily's reflection in the creature's eyes was a mirror of her own terror, magnified, distorted. She was trapped, not by the creature itself, but by the reflection of her deepest fear. The fear had taken root, blossomed, and now it threatened to consume her. The creature's cold fingers brushed against her cheek, and Emily felt her strength draining away. Her vision blurred, the edges of the world fading into a hazy, indistinct swirl. She was slipping away, pulled into the mirror's cold embrace. Her scream, when it finally came, was a silent thing, lost in the howling wind outside. The last thing she saw was her own terrified face reflected in the creature's eyes, a fleeting image swallowed by the darkness. Then there was nothing. Emily was gone, vanished without a trace. The cottage, once filled with her laughter, was silent once more. The storm raged on, oblivious to the horror that had unfolded within its walls. The morning dawned, pale and sickly over Hollow Creek. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence that was heavier, more oppressive than before. The villagers, their faces etched with the familiar dread, approached the cottage. Their steps were slow, hesitant, each one dreading what they might find. The door creaked open, revealing an emptiness that was more chilling than any scream. The cottage was empty. The scent of fresh paint lingered, a cruel reminder of the life that had so recently filled its rooms. But Emily was gone. Her belongings remained untouched, as if frozen in time. The only sound was the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner, a steady, relentless reminder of the time that had passed, the time that Emily had lost. And then they saw it, the mirror. It hung in the hallway, undisturbed, its surface reflecting their own horrified faces. But it was not their reflections that held their gaze. It was what lay within the mirror itself, a faint outline, a ghostly image trapped within its depths. Emily's face, her eyes wide with terror, stared back at them. The villagers recoiled, their fear a tangible thing. The legend was true. The mirror had claimed another soul. They left the cottage then, sealing it once more, leaving it to the whispers and the shadows. But as they turned away, a single thought echoed in their minds, cold and sharp as shattered glass. Who would the mirror claim next? The mirror remained, a silent sentinel in the heart of the village, its dark legacy secure. The curse of Hollow Creek lived on, reflected in the depths of the mirror, waiting for its next victim. The cycle was unbroken. Fear, once again, had won.